What's up, Windwalkers? So today I've decided to just do a quick overview kind of thing, covering all of the talents coming into Midnight and some of the changes that we might experience. Now this is not a full-on in-depth guide video, as I already did this. It's about 4 hours long and not everybody has that sort of attention span or really wants to watch a 4-hour video. I understand that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly make a real short video here, just go through some of the key points, I think, the key changes, but this by no means covers everything. It's just things that you might be interested in or just want to know, you know? Anyway, so we're going to start off with the class tree, and the big thing here is that Diffuse Magic is now gone. It was a choice known of Yulon's Grace, and now Yulon's Grace is just the only thing there. However, it has been now attached to Fortifying Brew over here that you can see, but it does not give you magic resistance or magic defense or defense from magic damage at all. In fact, all it does is it just makes Fortifying Brew now reflect magical effects. Is this actually good? Unlikely. I don't think it'll be that good. It might see some niche play, but compared to having Diffuse Magic, we're technically going to be down 1 defensive, and it was a really good one. Moving on to the Windwalker tree, the big one that we all care about. Storm, Earth, and Fire is gone. Clones are bad. Look, it is what it is. We're going to have to deal with it. But at the end of the day, this is a good thing for us, because clones were super buggy, caused a lot of issues with talents and damage and all that sort of thing, so it's just better off this way. And to be honest, it puts a lot more power back into us, the character, rather than the ad spawns that we actually produce. So, this has been replaced by Weapons of Order. Weapons of Order is essentially just the talent ordered elements that you've been playing with for about 3 tiers now. It essentially just reduces the chi cost of all your chi abilities, and then Blackout Kick reduces the cooldown of affected abilities by additional 1 second. It is a 2-charge, 1 minute 30 cooldown ability. It is exactly like Storm, Earth, and Fire. The only big difference is that it doesn't give you a damage buff. Moving on to Zuin, this is one of the big ones I wanted to talk about. The cat has been neutered. The issue now of Zuin is that you have to play him 2 minutes. You no longer have the talent Zuin's Bond that allows you to play at 130, and there's no longer Invoker's Delight that gave it a haste buff. What does this mean? Well, this means that you're no longer going to feel mini-lusted, and you no longer have the option to really play 1 minute 30 Windwalker if you wanted to use Zuin as your main cooldown. Realistically speaking, Zuin's going to be more of like an afterthought cooldown that you attach to Weapons of Order, but Weapons of Order is really going to be the big cooldown that you play around for this expansion. Apex Talents. Tiger's Eye Brew is the talent, and it all works around Weapons of Order for the most part. Essentially, you gain stacks of crit strike chance, and then whenever you proc Weapons of Order, you consume these stacks, and then you get big crit chance. Awesome. Moving on, the second part of it also gives you crit strike damage, increased by 10% for both nodes, 20% when it's max, so nice crit strike damage coming in just passively. Finally, more power is being put back into Fist of Fury, which is technically going to be like the cornerstone ability of Windwalker. It's going to be like the one that we'll truly focus around for this expansion, or that's how it seems anyway from how the talents are set out. Where basically you have a chance equal to your crit strike to increase the damage of Fist of Fury by 15% each time it deals damage. Pretty big, pretty useful, we like this. I'd be extremely surprised if you don't take these Apex talents. Other than this, because this is quite a short video and I'm not going to cover everything because it would once again take 4 hours to cover everything, what I wanted to just talk about is a few cool new talents. They've got a lot of cool new ideas coming in here. Russian Wind Kick is a cool idea where you do a lot of damage, but I'm concerned that it's split evenly amongst enemies, which kind of makes it weak at the moment. If this gets a little bit of a buff where it's more like reduced beyond 5 targets, I can see it being playable. Going back to Dragonflight all the way back to Season 2, there's now a talent with Rising Sun Kick where you'll be able to do AoE damage. That's pretty cool. That's coming back. So that's always an option. You're going to have the option to make Slicing Winds cost chi now and do increased damage, or to generate 2 chi when Slicing Winds is cast. This is kind of cool as well, and you've also got an interesting option here where you can actually increase the duration of Fist of Fury or get 10% more haste from all sources of haste. So we've got a lot of talent nodes here that are choices, that are new, that are interesting. Will actually change a little bit of how the playstyle actually works, maybe increasing your Fist of Fury, making you have to manage chi a bit more, or maybe not at all. As well as this, Strike of the Windlord and Whirling Dragon Punch now share a choice node, so that'll be at least 1 less ability that you have on your action bars. Oh, almost forgot this cool one over here, Harmonic Combo, which makes chi cost reduced by 1 for Fist of Fury, but it also reduces its damage by 10%. I've never heard of a talent that actually reduces your damage. This is the first one I've ever heard of. Interesting concept. Will it be good? I'm not too sure, but it's very interesting, and I think they're taking Monk into an interesting direction here, and hopefully we're able to take a lot of different talent paths with lots of different things, kind of like Season 2 and Season 3 of The War Within. So, here at Talents for Midnight, what Blizzard have done is they've actually integrated some of our tier set Season 3 into our Hero Talents for Midnight, so that means that with Conduit, you're going to be able to actually cast Slicing Winds and get a Heart of the Jade Serpent buff. I know a lot of people really love that, but that's just how it's going to work now, so Slicing Winds is almost mandatory for Conduit. On top of that, with like Shadow Pan, for instance, during Weapons of Order, if you get to 150 energy spent, you also expend Flurry Strike. So a little bit of both have been integrated, but they're not exactly the iterations from Season 3. We'll start with Shadow Pan, which has been kind of changed quite dramatically in comparison to Conduit, where Flurry Strike's no longer are energy based, you don't have to do all this energy malarkey, which was a little bit degenerate. Instead, they now discharge every time you cast Fist of Fury. Once again, Fist of Fury being the cornerstone of what it looks like our build is going to be and where all our damage comes from. Well, now you don't have to do stupid Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm, Tiger Palm. Instead, you can actually do a normal rotation and get Flurry Strikes out whilst dealing heavy damage with Fist of Fury. This is a really good change. And then moving to the bottom, Wisdom of the Wall, it's no longer a random buff card where you get 4 buffs and it's in a random order and you're praying to get Shadow so that you actually deal damage in AoE. Now you just summon a Shadow Pan fighter and he assists you during combat. That's literally it. It's not that exciting, it's a lot more passive, but hopefully this guy slaps, I guess. Other than that, the hero tier for Shadow Pan hasn't changed too much. It's going to be pretty samey. It's worth mentioning that actually now that you'll always proc Shadow Wisdom of the Wall, which is now called Shadow of the Battlefield or something like that. So every time you Flurry Strike, you do Shadow damage to all targets around you. Finally, moving on to Conduit real quickly. Interesting one here, you are forced to take 2 talents, at least one 100%, and that's Zuin. You cannot pop Conduit anymore without pressing Zuin, so you have to take Zuin to play Conduit. Conduit will now be a 2-minute spec, as Zuin is 2 minutes, and you have no way to reduce its cooldown. As well as that, we talked about Slicing Winds, because you now get it 4 seconds after casting Slicing Winds, it's also now pretty mandatory. The big change here that I wanted to kind of discuss with Conduit is the fact that now Heart of the Jade Serpent basically procs from Strike of the Windlord and Whirling Dragon Punch. Because as we said earlier, they are a choice node, you can choose between them, but this means essentially you don't just have to go Strike of the Windlord. At least you can now do Whirling Dragon Punch, get a Heart window if it ends up being better in single target or AoE. This is kind of a good change, but other than that, not too much different. I'd say out of the 2 hero talents, Conduit's going to feel the most familiar to the War Within iteration. However, Shadow Pan will be 100% easier to play, and I don't think it will even be close. Overall, it looks promising. I have a few concerns over certain talents, but for the most part, it's pretty exciting. I like a lot of these things. I've gone through them all in that 4-hour video that I said, but these are just the things that you really care about and probably want to know. When talking about these talent changes and everything that looks like it's going to be different with Windwalker, I like to use the phrase similar but different, in the sense that it's going to be similar to pick up easily if you've been playing Windwalker this expansion, but I think it's going to be different enough to get excited for a bit of a different playstyle, and some pretty cool talents that will bring everything together. Anyway, this is just kind of like an initial overview thing to get you a little bit excited about the changes coming to Windwalker. There'll be a lot more Midnight content to follow. Alright, see ya.